This week on ETTO Sidequest, games. We've been playing them, haven't we, Josh?
We sure have been.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to ETTO Sidequest, episode number 7. I believe it is number
7. Nice.
That's a good number.
Made it.
Lucky in some cultures, I'm sure. Not sure which ones, but some of them.
The Western ones.
Yeah, one or two of them. How are you, Josh?
Good. Busy. Good. There's been a lot going on. October was a busy month for a lot of reasons. Game-wise, particularly, but
it was the busiest.
So many things.
It was the busiest month of video games and possibly your busiest month of your life.
Yes. Yeah.
So we'll get to how that's affected your gaming in a little bit. But yeah, today's episode might be a bit of a shorter one. I say that, who knows? But we're just going to be chatting about the games we've been playing, doing a little catch up, because obviously, as we said, it's been a big month. And I've been playing a lot of different bits and pieces in particular. And we figured we'd just do a little episode without any major topic or anything, just, chatting about some video games. And then, of course, one of those games that came out was Spider-Man, and we are planning to do a big spoiler cast with as many of the ETTO gang as we can get together. But I believe we're just waiting on you, Josh, to finish it at this point.
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more I've got, but when I started playing at lunchtime today, the little, I don't know if the indicator on the save thing is like 100%ing by getting everything or the storyline.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is?
On the save thing, like in game.
Yeah.
That is 100%ing doing everything. There is also an indicator if you just go onto like the splash screen on the PlayStation, it tells you a percentage, and that's the percentage you are through the story. Yeah,
right. Well, I'm up to 70% of everything completed.
Oh wow, okay. Well then, if that's of everything, you're probably I mean,
I'm probably pretty close.
I specifically know where you're up to. You told us last night, and you're not too far away. So I think we'll probably be able to do that next week, and you'll be able to listen to our thoughts on it very soon.
Awesome.
Spoilers.
Awesome.
Most of us liked it.
Yes.
But yeah,
I'm intrigued.
Most.
I could probably take a guess.
I think a few people could, especially if they'd watched some certain streams. But anyway, no Spider-Man today. We're not talking about it. I played it. I played it in like 2 days.
You crushed it. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. It's one of those things where there's a few games like that. Spider-Man, I did it with Miles as well. Spider-Man, it's one of those I know it's achievable in a weekend, and so if I can set aside a weekend to do it, I like to just smash through it, because then I avoid spoilers, and it's the kind of game where I feel like I can do that, and it doesn't lessen the experience, because it kind of just keeps stringing you along. And I think it was fine. And to be honest, I also kept playing because I was really enjoying it. But no Spider-Man talk. I just said no Spider-Man
Not today.
talk. That's next time. On ETTO's Spider Quest. It's great. It'll be great. Gonna talk about games in a little bit. We'll jump into our quest log, as we like to call it. But first up, we're going to jump into our other segment name. That made sense. We're going to jump into
board, right?
Oh, you were close, but not you weren't on. On the thing. I'm looking at the document, so at least I can. I know what it's supposed to be. I'm cheating. No, we're going to jump into the bulletin board with a very quick news report.
So close.
You were so close, Josh. You were so close.
Maybe next time.
Josh has been too busy to gather any news, which is fair enough. And I have a news piece. I don't really want to talk about it for too long, because it's a bit of a downer, but also because it's kind of just going on a theme that's been happening across the year in the games industry, which is on, I think, Monday, October 30th. A bunch of, or maybe it was Tuesday, our time or whatever, a bunch of information came through on Twitter mainly that so a lot of Bungie employees had been laid off, and this was particularly in Destiny 2, in the Destiny 2 development, but also in Marathon development. Initially, it seemed to be largely focused in like community and marketing areas. Sure. But then as the day went on, people realized the layoffs had struck like all areas, including some of like Bungie all-time greats like Michael Salvatore, who's been doing music for them since Halo, like 25 years. And like,
wow.
Halo music, it's great.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Halo music. Anyone who plays Destiny loves the music. So basically the layoffs have been hitting across the board, kind of seemingly indiscriminately. But as more and more information has came out about it, Jason Schreier was the one to break the initial story, as he often does. But more information has kind of come out, and it seems like a lot of the layoffs happened to certain people based on the shares. There's a thing called vested shares, where when Bungie was bought by Sony last year, employees got like a certain share in Bungie or in Sony, one of the two. But anyway, once it hit a certain distance from that time, those vested shares, so they don't own them at that point. They own them at a later point. And what Bungie seems to have done for a lot of these people is fire them just before that period ends, because if they get fired or they leave the company, the shares default back to Bungie, or like the CEOs and executives. There's that. There's also a bunch of other stuff.
So it wasn't Sony's doing. It was like the higher-ups at Bungie?
The initial thought was it was Sony's doing.
Yeah.
When this first got announced, because people were like... Because, again, it was also... It was my entire Twitter feed for a day, because I'm a community manager, I'm a Destiny player, and it was... I could not read about it. And basically, a lot of people were like, this seems like Sony's doing, because why would Bungie fire these people? Because it was like prominent community managers, multiple community managers, that like did seemingly a lot of public facing stuff. As I said, like music people, the person who designed the Halo logo, like artists that have been around for crazy, like, and people were like, well, this must be Sony's doing, just like completely out of touch with what's going on at Bungie and just wanting to like
because they sound like unfireable people.
No, totally. Well, that's what a lot of people have been like, and even on people on Marathon that have come and been like, I have lost my job, and people being like, this person was like, you wouldn't have seen it, but this person was doing so much for that game, and it's like crazy. But anyway, people were like, well, it must be Sony, right? Because Bungie would not do that. And the more and more that come out about it, Sony has been doing wider layoffs. They did something like Naughty Dog and stuff as well, kind of cost cutting, because every company's been struggling and that kind of thing, but obviously layoffs still suck. Then people are like, well, it must be Sony since like the buyout has happened and stuff. And then over the past, it's kind of been an evolving story throughout the week. Over the past couple of days, it came out that this was largely Bungie upper management. It was their doing, and it was the timing of it on the 30th was so that a lot of their like benefits that they get, if you get fired at the end of the month, they lapse at the end of the month, so they don't get the extra benefits for as long. So certain stuff like healthcare they do, and severance they still get, but some of the other benefits they don't get. All these like super shady things.
So it's like so strategic.
Yeah, so strategic, and just like
so gross.
Completely removing the people from the equation.
Yeah.
There's plenty at this point. There's so many good videos breaking it all down, how this went down. So if you want a more play-by-play of what's been happening, go just Google it. It's a pretty big story at the moment in the games industry. But yeah, and obviously like that's a massive bummer. And I think just a continuation of a trend in the games industry, which is having one of its best years ever in terms of quality of games and like tentpole releases, and people are like, this could be the best year in terms of quality of the games ever. And then it's now like 6,000 people in like, and this is ones that we know of and at prominent enough companies, but 6,000 people have been laid off in video games this year, which is like, video games are having their most successful year ever, and then this many people laying like what's happening.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. A lot of it comes down to like, a lack of unionization in games, but also just greedy corporate people, that kind of thing. It's a ton of different things. I have my personal opinions on it. I'm not going to get too deep into it because it makes me upset. But it's just, it really sucks. And then particularly for me, it hit close to home for a couple reasons. Obviously, I'm a big Destiny player and like Bungie games a lot. We played through the whole Halo series. Kind of excited for Marathon. And this news was like very disappointing to read more and more about as it unfolded and kind of be like, what the heck is going on over there? Alongside this news also came it hasn't been officially announced by Bungie yet, but it's been confirmed by multiple sources that they have delayed their final expansion of their big saga from February to June next year.
Ooh, that's a big delay too.
Yeah. And then Marathon has been delayed from 2024 to 2025. And the big one for the Destiny expansion is like Destiny over the course of a year has 4 3-month seasons, and the content is very much like set out so that there's stuff to do across those 3-month seasons. But even then, the content gets a bit thin towards the end of the seasons, which like we're currently in now. When you delay it by 4 months, especially this late in the game, that means the next season is going to be 6 or 7 months, and there's just going to be 4 months of basically nothingness at the end of it, which for a game like Destiny is kind of... It's weird. It seems like they're
Sounds pretty unheard of, right?
Totally. They've a lot of their argument around this is like, I believe the CEO Pete Parsons was like, we've got the right people left working on Destiny, and like just like really weird comments like that, where it's like delaying it and making all these layoffs to most people in the Destiny community at this point has actually just like removed a lot of their faith in the game and the company and the product. And a lot of people are already thinking of jumping off at the next expansion because they're like, we're going to keep making Destiny after this expansion, but it's the end of our like current 10-year story. And a lot of people are already considering, okay, well, that's my end point. I think more and more people are now like, well, I'll see that out. But I don't know how much more I'll play. I know for me personally, I was like pretty kind of interested to see where they went after this, but generally I'm like, all right, well, if they've removed... I'm not saying the people who still work there aren't fantastic. I'm sure they are. And this is all upper management, and the people there are openly tweeting about how much this sucks and how awful it is. Very passionate people still working there. But for me personally, I'm like, well, I feel like my interest, which was already like middling at what was going to come afterwards, is now like, I couldn't really care less. I'll play the next expansion, see how it all ends up. But then after that, I don't know.
Man, like, who would have thought the Destiny killer was going to be Bungie?
It's been a long running joke. It's been a long running joke that nothing can kill Destiny, because every time a Destiny killer comes along, it fails, like Anthem and whatever. And the long range joke is Destiny will be the Destiny killer, and lo and behold,
they've done it.
They've done it.
It lived up to the prophecy.
So yeah, I think people are like, the game is going to keep being made until it literally doesn't make any money, because it's the one thing that makes Bungie money at the moment. So it's like, it's not like it is just going to disappear after that expansion, but it does seem like a lot of their plans are going to be rapidly like rejigged, and just like it feels like a death spiral from here, or at least that's kind of what the sentiment is within the community. Not even to mention Marathon, which is not out yet and is already seeing cuts. And it's like, that's not great.
Bring back Marvel's Avengers, I say.
Totally.
It's got a chance.
It's the game that got me into Destiny.
It's true.
So
it's true.
maybe I can fall out of Destiny and back into it. So yeah, it sucks as a Destiny fan, and community sentiment already wasn't great lately for a variety of reasons, and this has not improved it at all. But then the other perspective I just want to talk about for me as a community manager, as someone who is in comms and marketing, that's like my area. It's a particular bummer, and ultimately this Bungie one shook out that it seems like it's across the board and just like pretty indiscriminate, just picking names out of a hat almost. Well, not really, because they clearly targeted certain things, but you get what I mean. But definitely when it first came out, and it's still clear that the community, the comms and marketing team was absolutely gutted on Destiny, which in my opinion Destiny comms and marketing team and socials team, best in the industry. Like, are so good. They put out weekly blog posts talking about stuff in the game. Socials team, super good. One of the people who was let go was their main socials manager, like just the top guy. It's just baffling to me that once again in a lot of these layoffs, it seems to be the first people that the writing on the wall is the comms and marketing team, because they're deemed not as important, which in this day and age, and especially for a game like Destiny, which is like all about community dev interaction, because that's how a live service game has to exist. You need that back and forth. That the higher ups, who are clearly so out of touch, like that's the most clear thing from all this, are like, well, they can go because they're not as important. We don't need multiple community managers. We only need one. We don't need a social media manager. It's fine. We'll be able to deal with it. We'll be able to outsource it. And it's like, it's really sucks to me that like a few people tweeted about it on the day, that like this job continues to be undervalued and underappreciated in an industry where that stuff is, if anything, increasingly important. And like, comms and marketing people are like the people who tell other people about your game, right? Like, you can be like, oh, well, they're not developing the game itself, but they're the people who like do the other important part, which is selling your game.
Yeah, make people want to play it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's one of the things a lot of the YouTubers, the game dev YouTubers specifically, who are successful, but nearly everything they make a game and they, do devlogs and stuff about it. On YouTube, a lot of them have like courses and things like that, and so much of their courses is around marketing your game and going on Reddit or Twitter and all that, and building a community that is interested in your game and getting them to spread the word as well. And hype, and that's like the big thing about even tiny indie games is like, market yourself, market your game. That's what will get people playing it at all. So if these guys just watch Thomas Brush on YouTube, they would know how important marketing is.
Absolutely. And it's just, I don't want this to be like I'm a community manager, feel sorry for me that this is the job. Like, no, that's not it. I just think as an industry, and like my job is currently in games media, not attached to that, but I would love to work at a developer at some point, and I'm very much applying to do that at various points in time. But it's this thing of like, even in the games media industry as well, but just particularly in dev at the moment, there's just this is mainly from my experience in the higher, like obviously like the big devs, but there's just like a disrespect for like the job that those people do, and like it's just really disappointing. And like one of these community managers in particular that got laid off, Liana, she is like someone who inspires me and I look at as an inspiration in the job I do, to like do that. And to see her treated like this, I'm like, that's awful, because she's really good at her job. And like everyone in the community knows she's really good at her job. So just a big bummer. And I think we need to, I mean, not us specifically, we can't control it, but as an industry, definitely continue to kick up a stink about it, make a big deal about it. As fans of games, make a big deal about it, because like this sucks that so many people who don't deserve to be laid off continue to be laid off because, we didn't meet revenue goals, so we're going to fire the community manager. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like,
at least I guess, if anything, like, there are some huge, like, these people obviously have their name out there, like the big guys, the big people that are doing, community management, and then also like the music and the art and stuff like that, who have lost their jobs. They're obviously huge. So the good thing about that, I guess, is people will probably be clambering to get them. Like,
totally.
Blizzard could grab them for Diablo 4 and stuff like that for marketing and community management and stuff like that. Like, it sucks that it happened in the first place, but
but I also think I agree, and like I'm sure many of them will get picked up by wonderful developers, and like I hope they do. But
very
it's like,
quick, hopefully.
this is also how you lose talent in an industry, right? Because it's like,
True.
you keep treating people like this. Some of them are just going to be like, well, I'm going to stop working in games because clearly the industry doesn't care about helping me out. It only cares about the people whose pockets it's lining at the top, who once again continue to not take pay cuts from any of this. It's the same thing as the Epic thing we talked about a few weeks back, where it's like they just don't. The CEOs make a ton of money that could largely, I'm sure, maybe there'd still have to be some layoffs, but nowhere near as severe. But they won't take responsibility for the apparent failures of the games. There's a lot more to go into with this specific Bungie case. I would encourage you, if you're interested about it, to look up some videos, find out more about it. There's stuff about like the reason it happening is because Bungie didn't meet their revenue goals by 45%, and like, how are you missing it that hard? Like, how out of tune are your revenue goals? All these kind of things.
Yeah.
It's a pretty crazy story. A lot of good reporting going out about it right now. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up because I've been thinking about it all week because I kind of had to. And we do a games podcast. So as much as we like to talk about fun little whimsical pieces of news, felt like it was a pretty important one to talk about. But yeah, that's the bulletin board for the week. And it sucked. But what doesn't suck, I hope, is the games we're about to talk about.
Hopefully.
In the quest log.
Like a month's worth.
Alrighty. It's quest log time. So many games, Josh. We made it.
So many.
Oh,
I've only got 2 games.
No, I know.
One of them is shared with you, but you apparently have many games.
I have many games, and I'm excited to talk about them, and I think you'll enjoy talking about them as well.
Absolutely.
I've got to get my energy back up. That's why I don't like talking about the bummer pieces of news, but I got to lift my energy back up. And I will, because how can you not find joy in the first game we're going to talk about? Josh, would you like to tell me what you've been playing lately?
Ben, not together, but
no.
you and I have both been playing. We could have.
Maybe we should at some point.
That is totally an option.
But yeah.
But yes, we've been playing Mario Wonder, and it is wonderful. It's so...
It's everyone makes the pun, but it's because it's true.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, it's just... It's so delightful. It's just pure joy all the time. Although... so I've been playing it with Max, and she loves it. She loves Mario. She's grown up playing Mario and stuff. She's been getting very, very frustrated at this game because it does get quite difficult. The platforming and things like that do get quite difficult pretty quick.
Yep.
And that does not go down too well with her.
No, totally. So, I would say this is the most challenging Mario game in a while, and I think for a lot of people that's been a big criticism of Mario, is that it's not super it's baby's first platformer in a lot of ways. And obviously Mario Maker was a thing, and people made some pretty insane levels with that. But I would definitely say that this game, we'll get more into it, but is definitely the hardest Mario I've played in a while. But not in a way that it feels like you're playing Dark Souls, just in that it's like it's a good challenge to some of the stuff you're doing. Yeah,
absolutely. And with Max, not being a gamer, I guess, and kind of coming back into games pretty fresh.
Totally.
Yeah, this is quite a challenge. But yeah, we've been playing it together, 2-player mode. I think we're up to like the third or fourth area. Now, which is good. We've been collecting pretty much every Wonder Seed in the levels. So that's in terms of like the level information that they give you when you're about to go into it, which is usually 2. There's basically 1 or 2 Wonder Seeds in every level. One in the main levels and usually... Sorry, 2 in the main levels and usually 1 in like challenge and bonus levels and things like that. But there are occasionally 3, and I'm wondering if there's 3 in every level. Because there are some levels that we've accidentally come across 3, and I'm wondering
Yeah.
how will we ever find out what levels actually have 3 to go back to? I don't know if you have the answer to that, but you know, we've been loving it, like playing through, redoing levels until we find that the like elusive wonder seed that we didn't come across a few times.
I will say there is a few secret seeds and secret levels, but not too many. And overall, most of the time, what it shows you is what there is in the level. The one way you can tell is behind a level. If you like pick up all the big flower coins and the big seed and the seeds that they show you, there'll be a green, like kind of pale green check mark behind all that information. They'll let you know that you've done everything. And so some of them, if you go through and look at them, some of them you'll notice don't have that check mark, but everything has been collected, and that's how you can tell is the secret there. Sure, which I had to look up. That's not obvious, but that's super cool. You've been playing it with Max.
I love stuff like this too. On the screen for audio listeners, we've got a visual, and the visual, Mario just went down a pipe and ends up in the background because there's a bunch of pipes and platforms in the background. And it doesn't zoom into the background. You're just really far away.
Have you had any ones where they do that, but you're in the foreground as well? Because there's been a couple of those I've done.
Ooh, I'm not sure if I've come across that yet.
Knowing where you're up to, I think I've only recently had a couple. But there's a couple where you go into the foreground, which are also kind of fun because you're really big on the screen. But that's super, that they mess with perspective. I think this is the most creative, easily, that the 2D Mario team has been in like a long time. In so many ways. It's so creative in just like every way. I don't even know where to start with this. Where do we start?
It's just like, you know, with Mario Odyssey, that kept throwing like new mechanics at you constantly. And this is doing that, but in 2D.
Totally.
Like there's just constantly new things all the time. And you know, sometimes there's stuff from like the first level comes back, but in a new, unique way. That you kind of have to rework out, like how to use it in this new, unique way. It's just so interesting. It's fascinating the way they've done it. And like you said, it's so freaking creative. It's absolutely stunning.
And I think they have a really we talked about the difficulty earlier. I do like they at least have a good sense of like scale in the difficulty, and each level is marked a certain amount of stars for how hard it is. And I've basically always felt that is like accurate. And it's like a 2-star level, you're going to have a pretty chill time. It's your average Mario level, I'd say. You're not going to have too much of a problem with it. And then you have like 4-star levels, which are genuinely very challenging. And there are, I don't know if you found any of these, but there are 5-star levels that you can come across that are just like insane.
So how far through are you?
I am... I think I just finished the 4th world.
Okay, cool.
Out of
you're
6.
Probably you're probably past us. The level jump, which was one of the music ones where the music increases and the platforms appear and disappear on the beat. So after a while, Max gave up and just let me do it. So Princess Peach would just die immediately.
That's fair. I don't blame Max for that because that was freaking hard level.
And then she stopped watching me and just like went and did something else for a while because she couldn't handle the anxiety of me getting close and dying or whatever. But that level, jump, can go freaking jump.
It's definitely the hardest one I've played, and that was a 4-star one. I think
and then not long after that there's another one, and it's got a similar style, and I think that was 5-star. But it's the same sort of music.
I haven't
and platforms appearing to the beat, and we went in that, and I died once and went absolutely not.
Oh, there was one level actually I'm remembering now that I hated more. But it was like one of the badge challenges ones.
Sure.
But anyway. I think it feels like those 4-star levels, from what I've heard, the team on this is a mix of long-time Mario devs been working on them since like the first Mario games, new devs who have come in who have played the games as kids, and then like some of the 3D Mario devs as well. So it's this big combination of all the different teams. And I feel like I can really see, especially those newer devs in like those 4-star levels, which basically to me just feel like Mario Maker levels. They were like, let's use the Mario Maker tools, but with Mario Wonder stuff, and just make a annoying level to play. But it's absolutely. Always like because they're Nintendo workers, it's always like super well designed and like clean. Even if it's frustrating, it's like it's pretty frictionless and stuff.
And it's never unfair.
Yeah.
It's never like so ridiculous that it's it's unfair and you're like, why the hell did that happen? But there is enough challenge there that you can do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the issue, I felt the issue with the jump level and ones like that is when you're against the clock in a way, and you're sprinting. Yeah. Suddenly, when you get to a point where you have to make a jump, and the platform is really small, your sprinting shoots you way too far. Yeah. And so you're constantly like, as you come up to things, you're like, kind of on and off.
No, totally.
The accelerator, I guess, in a way of sprint to manage your speed.
It's very much
so complicated.
It's very much a skill that you wouldn't have really honed in other Mario games, but if you played Mario Maker a bit, it's those kind of, you feel a bit like you're like doing speedrun stuff. Is kind of how I would compare it. It feels like the game is making you, and I like that the game for those kind of levels makes you use like tougher movement techniques and stuff to like get it to work, because it feels like they're like using the full breadth of the game rather than what has been the case previously, where all that stuff is in there and people do it when they're like speed running and stuff. But for the average player who doesn't do that, you just play through the game and kind of ignore that those things exist. And it's interesting we talk about it getting harder, like overall is a more difficult game as well, because they've removed the timer, which initially I thought was, I think it's great. Like in older Mario games, they all had like a timer over the top, and it didn't matter. But when it did, most of the time it didn't matter. But when it did, it was very annoying. And I think like initially I was like, oh, maybe so you can just like stroll through a level and it won't matter. But I feel like overall, I'm just like, it just lets me take in the level more and enjoy it without being worried about like just sitting somewhere for a bit and like working something out.
And then once you get a Wonder Seed and the whole level changes and starts going crazy, that the Wonder Seed often pushes you forward. So you can't just wander through and really enjoy it. You're against the clock in a way. Like you know, the camera might start moving and things like that. I think they do it in pushing you around, or
they do it in ways like that are a bit more elegant rather than just having a set timer, which I think is super good. We haven't even talked about the Wonder Seed specifically, but like what a mechanic. Every time one of these pops up, they seemingly, I mean, some of them I would say are similar to other previous ones, but most of the, like, they're almost always, even if they're similar, like slightly different. Like every Wonder Seed you pick up, a Wonder Flower you pick up in this game to get a Wonder Seed.
That's right.
Is like, changes the level in some way that you're like, what the heck? And like...
Yeah, you haven't seen it before.
Continues to be so... Four worlds into this game, which I will also say the worlds in this game much more dense and much more in each of them than in previous Mario games. So you may be like, oh, there's normally 8 worlds. Why is there only 6 in there? Well, there's like a ton more levels and stuff to do.
Yeah, and like hidden stuff all the time and bonus objectives.
For sure. But the Wonder Seeds are like a delight. Some of them are like, they completely like change what the level is. Some of them it's just like, they change the gravity, they change the time, like if you're going slow-mo or like 1.5 speed. I can't even list them all because they're just every level has a different one.
Yeah, we recently did. I know it's in the trailer, so it's not too crazy. I knew it was coming. Max didn't because she hadn't watched the trailer as many times as I had. But the long silhouette level. Yep. Where you pick up the Wonder Seed and then you end up being like this big accordion version of Mario and Peach. And
so I was going to say, that was the one which I've seen be reused once.
Okay.
But when it was reused, it had a new kind of style of mechanic to it. So it's like, even when they do get reused in some capacity, they're doing something slightly different. So it's like...
It's great.
And I can't even like go too much into it because we'd be here forever. But yeah, every time you pick up a Wonder Seed, I don't think I haven't enjoyed it ever. Like, everything about this game nails the name Wonder. Like, it's just
absolutely.
I feel genuine wonder in this game in a way that like very few games do, and it's nice to feel that way in a Mario 2D game, which I'd stopped caring about that much. I don't even think I played the Wii U one, which got remastered for Switch. I don't really like. I always enjoy the 3D games a bit more. But this is like, well, if they keep being as creative as this game with new games, even if they made a Mario Wonder 2, but like kept doing different creative things with it, but I think, you know, I'm way more into what they're trying to do with this series now, where it felt like they'd stagnated. The other thing, there's like so many different enemies as well. Like, so many different enemies, new enemies. I feel like there's like a few Goombas and Koopa Troopers and stuff, but overall,
they're kind of barely, right? Like,
yeah, totally.
The normal like common enemy that comes up the most is the piranha plants.
Yeah, for sure.
Out of like the common Mario enemies, but they're so different, so unique.
Yeah, I think it's man. Like the whole thing. The whole thing is it's set in the Flower Kingdom, which is like close to the Mushroom Kingdom, but a bit further away, and so everything's it still is Mario, but it's like different, and everything's a bit different. And I think that's like the most genius way to like refresh this series of being like, well, it's very clearly still Mario, but we've gone to like this alternate universe almost. And so a lot of the enemies are similar to other Mario enemies you see, but are just a bit different in some way. And I think that's very, very fun and creative.
Yeah. And I love the I was going to say something. Crap. Damn it.
What do you love? Everything.
Everything. All of it.
I love the little flower dudes that talk. I've heard some people hate the little flower dudes that talk.
Yeah.
I really enjoy them.
I think they're fun. They're cool. Yeah. They're cool. I dig them. I reckon this has to have DLC, right?
It feels like it very much could. It feels like they could make it.
They can add so many levels to this and keep adding new, interesting, creative ideas.
Totally. I'd love to see DLC. I'd love to just see a Mario Wonder 2. I think that'd be great as well. Just like, you know, it just all feels like they've reinvigorated creativity into 2D Mario, which I think is great. I love this game. It's so funny because I was like loosely making a Game of the Year list, which I'm sure we'll do an episode on that later in the year. But I was loosely making a list, and it was like this game was in like 5 or 6, and I was like, that feels bad. It's not like I feel like any other year this would be like my top 3 games, and it's like crazy that it's not. But yeah, I think it's just a delight. We might talk about it a bit more in future, but it's a delight.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I think that's about it for that one. So do you want to talk about one of the games you've played?
Yes. I mean, I talked a lot about that game, but I've played a few games, so let's rattle through.
Yes. So I've only got one more, and I don't have like heaps to talk about. But
all right. Well, I'll talk about the one I have probably the most to talk about.
Sure. Please.
And then we'll rattle through the rest of the games. So the game I played in, I think, one full stream on my channel was Cocoon.
I was expecting that.
Nice.
Yeah. I've heard it's like you can get through it in like 4 or 5 hours.
Cocoon is about a 4 to 5 hour game, yes.
Yep.
I think it probably took me about 5 in the end, but that's because you're streaming, and sometimes when you're streaming, you get stuck on something that you probably shouldn't get stuck on.
Yeah.
But then alternately, you have people in the chat who have played it who are like, hey, maybe do this. So it kind of balances out a little bit. But speaking of creative and games that make you feel wonder and all those kind of things, I mean, this game is that. I still don't know how to talk about this game, so I don't know how long I will talk about this. But I don't know how to like put this game into words, because it is just phenomenal in so many ways. I think it could be, looking at it now, like it could be my game of the year if I had to pick one.
Ooh, wow.
even over Baldur's Gate Zelda.
That's amazing for a 4 to 5 hour game that you played in one sitting once.
Totally. And like,
that's
crazy. That's a lot of 4 to 5 hour games. You'd be like, oh, well, I got like 80 hours out of Zelda. But this game perfectly stays its welcome. Like 4 to 5 hours is the perfect amount of time for it. Any more, don't think it would have been as good. It's like the perfect length for it. It is basically top level description of it. It is a top-down puzzle game where you are this alien little bug creature, and you pop out a cocoon at the start, and you start solving these little puzzles with these little orbs, and eventually you discover that you can go inside these orbs and out of these orbs and into different worlds. That is the most surface level description I can give, because boy, does it get complicated and really cool in that, like, you can put worlds within worlds. You can like pick up something in one world, go out of a world, go drop it in another world. You just saw on screen there, we've got a visual aid for this game as well, that you can just like pop in and out of worlds super quick. And it mechanically is flawless, like completely frictionless experience. The game never tells you how to control anything in this game. There is not a single piece of UI. And yet I was never confused. It's basically you control the game with one. You basically control the game with one button as well. Plus the thumbstick. Yet I felt the game, despite never telling me anything, despite never giving me any tutorial, no on-screen hint, I always felt like the game was teaching me how to play the game really well. Like, it was just by the way it designed its puzzles, by the way it was structured. There's like a perfect progression of complexity throughout the game. Some of the puzzles at the end of the game get really quite difficult, but that's why I say it stayed its welcome perfectly, because any longer, and I think the puzzles get too complex and kind of frustrating to like wrap your head around, whereas the point they leave it at, it's like you're doing really cool stuff, kind of mind-breaking stuff with these puzzles, but it's not at the point where you're like, I can't deal with this anymore, this is too much. You get like maybe 2 of those puzzles before the end, and you're like, all right, that was a good amount. So yeah, puzzles, fantastic. All the world bending mechanics, jumping in and out of them works super well. And then just from like an aesthetics perspective and a music perspective, environment design, all these kind of things, it's also gorgeous. It's super, it's funny. I played this on, I can't remember. I think I promised someone a spooky stream, and then I played this instead. And I kept making the joke. I made the joke in like the stream title and stuff that it was a spooky stream. It's a spooky game because puzzle games are hard and that's scary.
Sure. Love it.
But ironically, the game as it went on, it's not, I wouldn't say it's like scary, but it is creepy and otherworldly in its like setting. Sure. Weirdly, you can see on the screen right now, kind of carrying a ball, and it's got a bit of flesh attached to it. There's weirdly like fleshy kind of Geiger-esque stuff, I'd say, to it in the design. But in like super interesting way, it just genuinely feels like really alien and like, it's kind of, it's the only way I can describe it. It's not really super describable. But yeah, I think like they nailed that side of things. The music complements it well. The music's pretty simple, but super effective. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's about all I can say. Like, it's just probably the best puzzle game I've ever played. If you are at all interested in puzzle games, you should 100% play this. Even if you're not, I'm like, give it a go, because I think it is something special. And
it's on Game Pass too. So
yeah, it is on Game Pass. That's it. And again, I mean, it is 4 to 5 hours. So if you're like, oh, I don't really know if that's worth the purchase, it being on Game Pass, it's the perfect kind of thing for like, oh, well, I'll just give it a go anyway. And I think, it has like, I didn't expect this, but it has boss fights, which the game doesn't really have combat. And it has these boss fights, and all the boss fights are really good. like really good little boss fights. One's coming up on the screen now, which I'll probably jump away from it to not spoil too much. But yeah, it's super cool game. Everyone should go play Cocoon. I think it is one of the best games this year, if not the best. It might be my personal best.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah.
I'd also heard there's like not really a story.
Yes.
Like
and no.
not a like super obvious one that's told.
It's one of those games where it's telling a story, but it's not telling you the story. It's like there is a story clearly happening, but it's the kind of one where you play it, you sit back with it for a bit, and you're like, so what happened? And then you kind of work through it all, and you're like, okay, that's what the story is. And it's like, I think I wouldn't say the story is like impacting, but it's interesting and super like, if you like weird kind of sci-fi, mind-bending kind of narratives, this game does a good job with that. And again, no dialogue, like there's no dialogue, no UI. So it's just all doing this entirely from like gameplay, sound design, music, and like world design. And I think that in itself is impressive. I'm so impressed at how like frictionless the entire game is, and how like, again, I just played through it in one sitting and maybe felt stuck like once or twice, but I felt stuck because I knew I was missing something, not because I was like, the game isn't making this clear to me. So yeah, I think it's super cool. I'm gonna not talk too much more about it because I'll just keep saying it's super cool.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I definitely want to play it. It's on my list. The fact that it is also only 4 to 5 hours is very good. Very good news.
Yeah, it's a one night.
I have so many games to still finish.
It's a one night kind of game, and I think that's also like the nice thing about it is like you can just jump into it. You're like, I have a night free. Maybe Max has gone out, and you're like, all right, I'm just gonna sit down and play Cocoon.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's awesome. I'm excited if you do play it to talk to you more in depth about it because it gets very weird. Awesome. We'll jump into your other game.
My other game, I played a bunch of Assassin's Creed Mirage. I picked it up on the Friday night of PAX on our way back to the train station. We just ducked over to EB Games and I grabbed it. Played it a little bit that night, played it a bit over the weekend after PAX and stuff, and played it pretty much all the way up until Spider-Man and Mario came out. And then, obviously, was taken away. But I love the Assassin's Creed games. I've played pretty much all of them, except for like the 2D side-scrolly ones, like China and things like that. India, I think, is another one, and there's another one after that. But this is, I just looked up, this is the 13th major installment.
My God.
In the series. Yeah. It feels like not that many and also so much.
Yeah, totally. It feels like there's really it definitely feels like there's been more, but then you're also like 13's a lot of games.
Yes, yeah. Like considering they also released probably two of those major games on the same day. Because right. One of them was Unity and
Rogue?
What was the one that came out?
It was
Rogue. Yeah. Both of those came out on the same day, but one was previous gen and one was next gen.
Yeah.
But yes, and I also bought a PS Vita to play one of the Assassin's Creed games.
Revelations?
No.
Renaissance? Resistance?
Renaissance? Assassin's Creed Renaissance?
Resistance.
No, not Resistance. I can't remember. I think it was set in France. You play a female.
On
Vita.
It is Revelations. It was Revelations. There was a Revelations.
There was a Revelations, but that was the end of Ezio's thing. Can you look up Assassin's Creed PS Vita?
Yeah. Liberation.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So I bought a PS Vita because that game was exclusive to the PS Vita, and I loved Assassin's Creed so much that I needed it, and it was pretty good. And then I was disappointed a few years later when that exclusive game came to consoles, and I didn't need to spend $200 on a Vita and another $100 on the game. But it's fine. I'm not salty at all.
No.
The Vita is actually so freaking good, and I'm so glad I did get one.
It's a very cool piece of tech. I'd say that
it was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
So good. But yes, this game, this one is set in 9th century Baghdad. You play as a character, Basim, who is just kind of like a street thief to start with. That's it. And the people that he kind of steals for and with are working with the hidden ones, who are essentially the assassins. And some, a situation arises. You try and steal from a big important person. It ends up going really bad, and you end up it goes really bad. A lot of people die, including a lot of children. Get murdered by the royalties army. Just come in and slaughtered kids. It's awful. And then you end up basically escaping with one of the hidden ones, who then agrees to train you to be an assassin. And story goes from there. I gotta say, from here, I don't really know what's happening in the story. I'm still one of the parts of the Assassin's Creed games that I love is the weird mystical stuff that happens. So when they have weird items like the Apple of Eden and things for people who have played these games, like that sort of stuff. I love all that sort of mystical side of it. And I recently in the game found an area with you had to go and collect these certain things, and it's a very futuristic looking temple. Cool. And you got to go out into the world, collect these special things, take them back into this temple, and you can get gear and items and lore.
Right. So you like the Animus stuff?
It's not Animus stuff.
Oh, okay. It's just different stuff. It's
So it's it's the alien futuristic tech.
Okay.
Not the
totally.
Although I will say I have always somewhat enjoyed and been intrigued by the modern day parts of the Assassin's Creed series. I'm one of the few, if not the only one. Especially at the end of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. There is a crazy situation that happens at the end of that, whereby I'll try and kind of avoid spoilers in naming a character, but Nolan North kind of turns up again. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, right.
Which is wild. Just so cool. But yes, I have I enjoy this game. It's as a lot of people have said, and a lot of people probably know. It is very it's kind of going back to the original games.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similar assets and things like places to hide and to sit, where it's just and people walking around and you can blend in with them and things like that. It's got some of the cool mechanics that I forgot about and didn't realize that I was missing until this game brought it back, which was a notoriety system where the more crimes you do, it's almost like a wanted level. And then around the town, they put up wanted signs, and to lower that notoriety, you find the wanted signs and you tear it down, which I believe was in the ETTO games. And you can also pay. You can also pay people to, like musicians and town criers and stuff, to help you lower that notoriety and stuff like that too. Yeah, I love the system we're seeing now is like, got to go around and find clues and things like that. So it's not just a straight get this quest, get this quest, get this quest. There's a bit of, go in here, find a bit more information and use that to solve problems and things. I like that. It's a little more, little less hand-holdy to some extent. It's the combat is good but very hard. So
I have heard this.
So like where I'm going to jump into Spider-Man because that's I immediately likened it to Spider-Man.
No, we're not allowed to talk about Spider-Man.
I'm so sorry. Well, a Marvel-related game that recently came out has a similar sort of dodge and parry mechanic. But in this game, the parry has such a short amount of time that they give you. It's really, really hard to either dodge or
I love a parry. Parrying is one of my favorite things to do in video games, but it is so easy to get wrong. It's so hard to, if you have a perfect parry system, it's the best feeling thing ever. If you have a bad parry system, it's the worst feeling thing ever.
Yes, yeah. I don't know. I feel like this is bad because it's too short.
Yeah,
it barely gives
often
you the
that's
time.
the case. And some people really like that, but as a parry lover, I also don't find that fun because I'm like, it just requires you to be too perfect that it almost feels like it's not worth it. But
like I love it in recently released Marvel game. I think it's done like it's very fun and rewarding to do. But in this one, it's kind of the enemies have like a white attack which is parryable and a red attack which is not parryable, and you have to dodge. And so often they will the enemy will like very easily block you. So almost the only way to attack them is to parry, but the parry is really hard to do. So you kind of have to find other ways and stuff like that if you can't parry them, and if you can't, then you're probably going to get hit. Because there's just such a short window that the red comes up before they attack.
So is it trying to funnel you more back into doing stealth like in the old days? Is that the kind of why it seems to be a lot harder in the combat?
I don't know.
Because I do know like Valhalla and Odyssey and stuff all got a bit more like focused on like RPG, like fighting with weapons, head-on kind of combat. But
I think this is still doing like a bit of both. It's an interesting one.
I've heard I've heard people say the game has a bit of an identity crisis because it's kind of trying to be one of those earlier games, but it's also still trying to hold on to stuff of the newer games, but maybe not like meshing the stuff that should be meshed together, or not pulling the bits it should from each different thing. I don't know.
Sure.
Man,
I'm just looking at this guy's.
But
a little bit. I gotta play a bit more, but I'm just looking at this guy's weapons.
I know.
Back, and they're just all like glowing with so many particles and stuff flying everywhere.
I don't know.
I feel like this may be a new game plus because I don't know what those items are.
Could be a cosmetic thing. Ubisoft let you buy a lot of cosmetic-y things.
That's very true. Just super quickly to end it off, I just want to talk about one of the very short missions, or maybe two of the very short missions that stuck with me most. One of them, there was a guy who was found and he was basically dying, and he knew that he was dying, and he'd been trying to get treatment for a long time and hadn't been able to. And so he basically, he's an astronomer. He's the first person, according to this game, to determine that the Earth revolves around the sun and not the other way around. And he had all this, all these proofs and all this research and stuff. And he's like, I need you to go get it so that I can be credited with the work that I'd done. Like, give it to my son. And you're like, okay, I'll go get your son so that he can be with you for your last moments. And he's like, no, go get my work and then go get my son. So you go get the work. By the time you come back, his son is there and finds out that you knew that his dad was dying and that you went and got the work instead. And he's like, he really cared about his work and stuff. And he said, "Oh, what did he say about you?" And he's like, "You can either say that he cared more about his work, or he cared more about you." And I don't think either of them are going to be good. No. Because I said he cared more about you, and I thought that would have been nice. But then he got angry at me for not getting him and allowing his father to be alone when he died.
Right.
And so he got, and otherwise you could have said, he cared more about his work, and then he would have, hated his dad. And I was like, what is the right choice there? Like, that was an interesting kind of little dilemma to be put in.
Yeah, it's a good little moral quandary. I do like a cheeky moment in video games where you're like, both these options suck.
Yes.
Neither of this is going to be good. Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't think that the one I chose would suck, but then it did. And then the other one, which I like, being a fan of these games, I got a little kick out of, which was, there was a point where I was climbing up a tower to get the synchronization point, as you do in these games. And there was a kid standing like halfway up this huge tower.
Yep.
Do you know about this? Have you heard about it?
No.
No? Okay. So yeah, there's a bunch of kids like yelling at him and people being like, you got to get down, you got to get down, you got to hurt yourself. And he's basically like, no, I want the hidden ones to recognize me because I want to be like them. And you realize that he's kind of standing, like, he's very high up, but he's standing in front of a wagon of hay, as is the way in Assassin's Creed, where they jump off a big tower and land in a barrel of hay. Yeah. But he's like too afraid to jump and he doesn't know how to do it. Yeah. So you go over to him. He doesn't know that you're a hidden one, but you just go over and you kind of find out what he's about, what he's doing. And he's like, I can do anything if I'm shown. And so you're like, all right, well, I'll show you how to do it. So you jump off for him. And then he's a little scared, but you encourage him to do it. You're like, yeah, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And he jumps off very awkwardly, but he manages to be okay. And he jumps out and it's all sweet. And then he finds out that you are a hidden one after that. Yeah. He's like, you must be a hidden one because you did that. And he basically, your character says, when your voice has lowered, find the hidden ones. So basically, when you hit puberty, look for the hidden ones. Yeah. And you'll get what you're after. And then when he goes over to his friends, one of them is like, "Whoa, Hytham, that was crazy." And most people would be like, "Hytham, the hell? Like, who cares?" But I know that name from Assassin's Creed games. So I went and looked it up, and Hytham is a character that turns up as an adult, as a man, in Valhalla, in the previous game. And so does Basim, or at least Basim gets mentioned. I had no idea that there was a connection here. I also didn't realize that Valhalla was set in like the 9th century or something. I didn't realize it was that far back. I thought it was a lot more recent. Like 15 or even later. But yeah, so that was just a cool, like a really cool little nod.
Totally. To someone like you who has played them all.
yeah, totally. It's just like, oh man, it was really, it was a satisfying little story. And I love these little, I think they're literally called like Tales of Baghdad. These sort of little stories where you just talk to an individual and help them out, and there's a little just a little side story there for you. I love those.
Those are both really fun. I was just going to say, my constant battle with Assassin's Creed games is not enjoying the main gameplay and overall story of them, which is a lot of the game, but loving the historical setting and running around these historical places, and just how this game is gorgeous, and just how like pretty and like they're not 100% accurate, but generally pretty decent job at it. Like, they've even made versions of it that people can play in history class to, like, I remember Origins had, like, an exploration mode for that very purpose.
Origins and Odyssey. I think Valhalla had a bit of that as well. I think this might, but this has got, like, collectible points that you can go up to, and it'll be, like, this particular market, and it'll tell you all about it. Like, there's all this lore,
and it's like, I love that. I wish, and I so wish I could have any passion for the rest of the series. I've tried a little bit, a few different games, and like played some. The one I got the furthest through was probably Odyssey, but even then it wasn't that far. But I will say I continue to be so impressed and like really enjoy how much effort they put into that side of things. Because for me, I mean, that's the one bit that could pull me in, and I know for a lot of people that's like as equally important as the rest of the story stuff. So it's cool that it kind of can appeal to a bunch of different crowds still, and it's probably why the series is still successful.
Yes.
But yeah, keen to hear a bit more once you've made your way through it.
I was just gonna say as well. I think it was Unity. Just in the accuracy part. When that church burnt down in France, in Paris.
Notre Dame. Yeah,
Notre Dame. Ubisoft gave them the 3D model that they had from Assassin's Creed Unity because it was so accurate that they were able to just rebuild everything from scratch. So they gave it to the architects, which is really cool.
That's and you know, like that's a lot of, because these games are very pretty, but it's like a game can be pretty, but I feel like how pretty these games are does a direct service to that level of accuracy. It's like I enjoy looking at this, but it's not just because the graphics are nice, the like rendering, all that. It's like, well, I know that is like they very specifically have made that to look as accurate as possible, and that's, you know, realism in some games can be whatever, but this kind of game, that's where you're like, you want the realism, right? Because the realistic graphics, because it's the perfect kind of thing. So so cool. It's very cool. I'm very happy that they keep doing that. Anything else you want to mention?
Nah, that's it for all of the games I've been playing, other than one I'm not allowed to.
Yes, which we will be talking about. It's an honorable mention because, as I said, I've played plenty of it. A quick couple of honorable mentions for me that I'm not going to talk about at length. Finally finished my playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3, my first playthrough of it, with my friend Matt, who we did Diablo streams with. It was great. The ending itself was kind of like, as is often the case with a lot of the RPGs, the ending of the main story itself was like, all right. But it's the whole journey to get there and like the moments and stuff that were just like superb. Such a great game. When you brought up like having those like moments of moral quandary where like both answers aren't that great, particularly towards the end of the game, I had a few of those moments that I was like, this is awful. Neither of these are good. And I'm screwed either way. And I enjoy when a game does that to you and you're like, I have to pick one of them. Great game. Cool. Plenty of people talked about it. I talked about it on this show a while back, but it's very good. And will be in my top few games of the year. Maybe even the top one. I've said that twice today. Interesting that. But yeah, wanted to shout that out. And also Sea of Stars, which I've still kind of been chipping away at. It hasn't really absolutely put its hooks in me yet, which I think is why I haven't played that much of it, but I've been trying to go back to it when I remember to and just play little bits of it, because I'm still like enjoying it. I just haven't really been like, the game hasn't really done the thing where it's like, oh, I only want to play about and think about this yet. I'm just like, oh, it's fun when I go and play it, but I'm hoping at some point I get drawn in like that. But it's also just a long game. Lots of long games. But games,
I really want to get back to Sea of Stars as well at some point. It's going to be a while.
We'll do an ETTO Sidequest spoiler cast of it in like February next year.
Something like that. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, long games, plenty of long games. Another longish game that I've been playing a bit that I started on stream on Tuesday on Halloween because it was a spooky game, was Alan Wake 2, which, believe it or not, also been getting crazy good reviews. I think it's averaging like a 90 at the moment.
Wow, good on them.
Or like high 80s. Alan Wake 2, obviously the follow-up to the 2010 game Alan Wake, and also Control. Yeah, there is a surprising amount of both games in this, I would say, because obviously the big thing when Control came out was that they kind of slowly revealed that Alan Wake was a part of that universe and that they're connected. And then they even had an Alan Wake DLC bit, which I haven't played, but I did. It's been on sale recently because this game came out, so I did buy that, and I'm going to go back and play it at some point.
Yeah, awesome.
But anyway, Alan Wake 2 has come out this week. To much critical acclaim. I've only played the first 5 hours on it. I had maybe 5.5 or so on stream the other night. It's one I'm going to try and stream the whole game, so I can't really like power through it, but I would if I could, because it's so cool. Yes. It's so darn cool. It's kind of very much more survival horror than I would say any of Remedy's games have been. Control was very much like action, third-person shooter. Original Alan Wake wasn't as like horror based as far as I know. I haven't played it personally, but from what I've heard, this is quite terrifying in some aspects. But like, from what I've played, it's doing really cool things. Really beautiful, stunning game. When Control came out, a big thing was that was one of the first games to really utilize ray tracing. And this game is also very much utilizing it and is like a big, like, you need beefy graphics cards and stuff to do it. And luckily I bought a beefy graphics card earlier in the year. And so even though I'm streaming it, I was still able to like crank stuff up a decent amount. And boy, in the scenes where like you spend a lot of the early parts of the game in like a forest, and when the like sun starts coming through the trees and all the lighting kind of starts hitting like water and stuff and reflecting off everything. It's like, this is gorgeous. Absolutely stunning.
I remember some of the trailers were
totally
specifically made to show that off, and it was so good.
Totally. And what they're actually jumping into on the screen right now is one of the cool things this game does. So you play as two characters. You initially start playing as this FBI agent, Saga Anderson, which is very funny that her name is Saga, and the whole thing is Alan Wake is a writer and he writes stories, aka sagas. It's very on the nose.
Very good.
She's an FBI agent come to investigate like these cult ritual murders. And basically what you do during the game is you accumulate little clues, and then you go into your mind place, which is like a play on Mind Palace, which is a little hut for her, and kind of have this detective pinboard where you start pinning stuff up on your detective board. Kind of interesting you talked about it in Assassin's Creed, because that is similar. This is doing like the very specific like red string pinboard kind of stuff. And so as you gather more clues, you kind of string them along on your board for different cases and fill it out. And then you have these little moments where she like reflects on things, kind of does some weird mind reading stuff at points that you're like, I'm not sure if you should be able to do that, but that's fine. And yeah, you kind of, that's the early part of the game is that. And then as that's probably the first hour or so is you're just like kind of doing this, investigating a murder. It seems pretty normal, and it gets weirder and weirder. You start hearing Alan Wake talking to you, and like these weird like crossovers of like different planes of existence and stuff. The weird stuff you found in Control as the game went on. And then, very quickly it begins to take a turn into like super weird traveling between reality, meta, is this real kind of stuff. And then you start playing as Alan Wake, and Alan Wake is kind of, his whole thing is he writes stories and he kind of traps people or gets trapped within his stories, and he's kind of trapped within a story. And so there's a mechanic where you start, instead of him having the like detective board, he's got a plot board, and you start like you enter a scene, and it says new scene on the screen, and then you go into your plot board and you put in different elements into the plot, and it changes the scene that is like in front of you. And it's like, so this is one of those games where you're like, this is like using the technical stuff of like this generation of consoles and stuff, because it is so quick the way it changes the world when you start like changing the elements, and you literally go out of and it's like you go out of the screen and it literally changes it on screen, and the world in front of you literally like completely changes. And it's like insane how quickly and how well it works. And yeah, I probably can't say too much more for spoilers, but also because I'm not very far into it. But it has started to get very weird in a very cool way, and I'm very into this game. I can't wait to play more of it. I'm going to try and stream some tomorrow night and on the weekend, I think, because I just want to keep playing more of it. Remedy are just keep going from strength to strength. I feel like they're a bit more of a niche developer than Control, with kind of a few more people clocked onto Control. That was my entry into their games.
Me too. I adored Control. Yeah. I platinumed it and then platinumed the first DLC. I loved it so much.
Yeah.
The credits, when you hit the credits.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my gosh. Just blew my mind. Like,
absolutely.
So
and this
good.
This is like hitting the elements of what I loved about Control. It is a different game, but it is like, this is Remedy really starting to hit their stride, I think. And it's like, I'm so happy that it's also getting them the like critical and widespread acclaim. Like, this is probably their most successful, I would say, and what most mainstream game that they've released. Like, a lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people are talking about how cool it is.
It's interesting though, because it sounds like not many people have played Alan Wake, but everyone knows it.
Yeah, I know. It's this weird thing where... Yeah. And I also think, like, well, I say they've like kind of weren't super well known. They'd also made the Max Payne games and stuff, but I feel like it's like an ebb and flow of like they made Max Payne, then made Alan Wake, which is a bit more of like a cult classic game, and then coming. Yeah, I don't know. It's just super cool to see them being successful because I think their games are phenomenal, and they're making games in a way that I would say not a lot of people are. Like they're making some unique stuff, and it's super cool. There's a few bits of this game that remind me of a Kojima game, and then B, Immortality, which is the FMV game I played last year. It kind of goes along those lines. So if that rings a bell in any of your brains to whoever's listening to this, and you're like, that sounds cool, that's kind of the vibes of this. Plus, obviously, Control and stuff mixed in. But great game. I'm going to talk about it more when I've played a bit more, if I can, because it'd probably be very spoilery. I have been told I'm like... The bit I'm up to, I'm about to get, and this is not just from one person I've heard this, but from many people, one of the greatest sequences in gaming ever.
Wow.
And so I'm like, all right, there's high praise. But so many people are saying it that I'm like, well, it can't be wrong because like clearly it is like actually that good. So anyway, I will report back on that. And then Cocoon was kind of a weird game. This is kind of a weird game, but a bit of a mainstream weird game. I have two other really weird ones that you're not going to have expected. The first game that has been taking up... Oh, no, you know what? I'm going to go to... I'm going to go to the weirder one first. One game that I came across a few weeks ago...
I've heard about this.
Is a game called Mosa Lina. Obviously, Mona Lisa, Mosa Lina. I came across it first in, I think, the Steam Next Fest. I downloaded the demo, but didn't get to play it, and then realized it was out. So it's like $5, so I just bought it. Cool. And the entire concept of this game is that, hang on, I have to read the specific pitch of it because it's the best way of describing what this game is, which is, what did they say? This game is a hostile interpretation of immersive sim design. The game is a response to the current trend of immersive sim design, where every ability is perfectly suited to solve a specific problem in the game. In order to counter this lock and key philosophy, Mosa Lina is aggressively random. So basically, they have made an immersive sim, which if you don't know is games like Arcane make a lot of them. So like not Redfall. Redfall was bad. Deathloop, Prey, Dishonored, those kind of games. It's not just Arcane that makes them, but they're the easiest ones to go to. But what these guys have done has been like, we don't like how those games, even though they're supposed to be immersive, very much have like set solutions there that you can do it. And so what they've done is made this game, which is it's not entirely randomly generated. There are like set templates for levels, but basically you get 3 power-ups. And each of those power-ups you can use to help you get through the level. It involves like picking up little fruits and stuff. But I I don't even know how to describe it. Sometimes you can't beat the game. It says it on the screen right now. This game is random. Sometimes you can win, and sometimes you cannot. Sometimes you get 3 power-ups that are useless, and it is just impossible to beat the level. And you get given like a set of levels, and then some power-ups to use in those levels. And you can like get through a set of them and succeed, but I don't even know if it is success. I haven't even gotten to that point. I just messed around with it for an hour, and I was like, this is super cool. It is like genuinely one of the most creative things I've ever played. Like one of the coolest games I've played this year. And I keep saying that, but it's because they're all so cool. And it's like, it's not like a game I think you can play for hours and hours and hours and like play it forever. Maybe you can, maybe you're really into it. But it's like, you just play it for a while and be like, this is cool. I'm going to go do something else now. But you're like, because sometimes you do feel really smart. Sometimes you get power-ups that work and a level that works with it. And you're like, wow, I did that in a really cool way. And then sometimes you're like, wow, the game screwed me over. I can't do this at all. And it's funny. It's like, it's such a cool little thing. I love it.
I watched a video from Game Maker's Toolkit. He did one on this recently. So if Ben hasn't sold you on it, go check out Game Maker's Toolkit video on YouTube. It's called A Puzzle Game Where Your Tools Are Completely Random.
Totally.
Is the name of the video.
I'm not surprised.
It looks so fun.
He has made a video on it because as soon as I played this, I was like, Game Maker's Toolkit would make a video on this.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think when
it's the perfect puzzle game for him.
And I think when I picked up this game, it was just before it started picking up a bit more steam because it had like very few reviews on its Steam page and stuff. And then I started over the days afterwards to see more people on Twitter notice it, and then little like different bits and pieces pop up everywhere. People like, how cool is this game? And I was like, I knew it before it was cool.
Nice.
But
Life is nice +1.
Yeah, no, that's funny. You get a little score at the end of each game and little like reasons for that score, and some of them are just pointless. And it's very fun. It's very much like it's very comedic and like taking the piss of what an immersive sim is, but at the same time being a really interesting and fun immersive sim puzzle game. Like, so yeah, it's super clever. And I think it's only, I can't remember the exact price because I bought it and it's not going to show up, but I feel like it's only like $5-6 on Steam.
Yeah, cool. That's amazing. I honestly, when I first saw this, I thought it was the follow-up game to Baba Is You.
Yeah, totally.
It's a different developer, but it looks, it's like the same art style and everything.
It's the same art style and the same weird like rule-breaking kind of vibe of it all. I haven't even seen this ladder power-up they're using. That's cool. And yeah, like it's frustrating, but it's funny when it's frustrating more so than anything because it's supposed to be.
Because you don't even know if you can.
Totally. And it's fun because there's power-ups that definitely feel like less useful overall, but then it's fun when you finally do something useful with that power-up and you're like, wow, I'm so smart. So yeah, super cool little game. Just wanted to give it a shout out because I think it's worth giving a try if you're into weird little games. And speaking of weird little games, this one, I would not say it's mainstream, but it's been very popular on TikTok and Twitch now and other stuff. A game called Suika Game, or the Watermelon Game.
I think I've heard of this as well.
So
is it on Switch?
This is on Switch, yes.
Yep.
This is also like $5, maybe $4.50. I feel like that's about how much I paid for it. And it is basically you're playing Tetris with fruit.
I heard it's like a slightly different version of like a 2048.
It's 2048 and Tetris mixed together with fruit. So basically the goal of it is you have these tiers of different fruits. You start at cherries, going all the way up to watermelons, and you combine two of the same fruit together to go up a tier to the next fruit, and kind of keep combining them together. When they hit each other, they combine. And then your goal is kind of to get a watermelon, and then I've heard you can combine two watermelons together, but I haven't done it. But also just to kind of get like a high score. And it is so addictive. It is. It looks so. It's one of those games that looks so simple. And you're like, why are people so into this? And then as soon as you pick it up, you're like, you also look at it and you're like, I could do better than they're doing. And then as soon as you pick it up, you're like, oh no, it's hard. And then you keep playing it for ages and ages. And there was a point, because had my Switch out for Mario Wonder, and I just picked up this game because I was like, well, I've got my Switch out, I might give it a go. And there was a couple of days there where I was like, I'm not playing Mario Wonder at all, just because every time I went to my Switch, I was like, oh, I can just play another round of this, and then just get stuck on it for a while. And it's made by Japanese developers. For a while, it was only in Japanese, and people were still playing it even if they didn't speak Japanese, because it was just like that popular. I think at first picked up on like TikTok and stuff.
Sure.
But they've now added like English language supported stuff as well, so you can at least like read the menus, which is helpful. Yep. And yeah, it will eat up your life, but it's also very fun, and I highly recommend it. My highest score, I have gotten above 3,000, which is quite a decent achievement, I would say. That's what a lot of people like aim to do. Sure. And yeah, I've gotten a decent amount of watermelons, like 4 or 5 different watermelons across all the games I've played at this point. Never combine 2 together. I'm not sure what happens, and I don't really want to find out what happens until I do it. My theory is that it goes back to a cherry, but I don't know.
Okay.
So don't tell me in the comments if you've done it.
I just really want to see him merge with them, whoever they are.
Yeah.
Merge the 2 peaches.
Oh yeah. That's the whole thing. You're like, so you've got 2 peaches on the screen here and a couple things between it, and that is the entire thing of the game. There is a genuine skill to it of like working out how to stack stuff, and you learn over time how the better ways of like stacking stuff, because you get like a random fruit each time to drop, and sometimes it's a bigger one, sometimes it's a smaller one, and so kind of working out how to manage that with what you've already got in your bucket. Gosh. Yeah. No, I know. And it has those moments where it's so frustrating, but then it also has those moments, it looked like it maybe was about to happen, where everything there we go.
Hey, pineapple. Excellent,
everything cascades into like a new, a bigger fruit. And also like sound design is great. It's very satisfying, and they all like pop together. And it just looks nice. It's nice to look at. The physics are real, like the physics of them all rolling around is what I feel like makes a lot of the game. There is an online version of it you can play, but it lacks a lot of those physics. Sure. And so it's kind of, that's a lot of the charm, is kind of both the frustration, but also how satisfying those physics can be when they work to your advantage. And so
combine the pineapples.
Yep, that's what happened. That's entirely what it is. And
very good.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. Highly recommend it. Again,
it's so funny when these sorts of games come around. It's like they didn't even expect it, because they didn't bother putting it in English. They didn't think anyone,
absolutely.
It's a very basic idea, but man, it must have just hit at the right time in the world.
Hit at the right time, just like good dopamine, like it's doing.
Yeah.
It's hitting all those good feedback receptors in your brain that you're like, yeah, I needed this.
Yeah.
So yeah, check it out. $4.50, I'm pretty sure, on the Nintendo eShop.
Solid.
It's a bargain. They also had a Halloween mode, like just visually, so the melon became a pumpkin and stuff, and they had different Halloween music. So yeah, great time. I just play a lot of weird little games, and I've enjoyed playing weird little games.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's all my games. It's a lot of games. I say that's all of them. It's a lot. But I thought it would be particularly fun. It's kind of why I messaged you being like, let's just talk about games. Because I've just, I feel like more so than ever picked up a bunch of stuff that I just wouldn't have expected. But has really... this is not even mentioning, I played a bunch of demos in the Steam Next Fest, which were also great. Yes. But kind of missed the boat on like talking about that one at the time. So I'm sure we'll talk about some of them when they're released. But yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Amazing. I think, is that it? I think we're done.
We're done.
So like our shortest record ever.
It is. It's still an hour and a half, but it's the shortest ever. Hey, look, we had fun. If you missed any of the games we've been playing are Mario Wonder, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Cocoon, Mosa Lina, Suika Game, and Alan Wake 2. So there you go. Check out all of them. And you can check out all of our podcasts via your preferred podcast app under ETTO's Catch Up. You've got all of our previous episodes of the Sidequest, as well as episodes of ETTO's Catch Up itself with Josh and Will. And you can check out YouTube videos, Twitch streams, all the different links you might need by heading to etto.card.co. And yeah, next time for us, as I mentioned earlier, hopefully, be talking about Spider-Man. So yeah, very exciting.
Likely. Feels likely.
It feels likely. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, been a fun episode. Hope you enjoyed listening to it. Josh, did you enjoy talking about it?
Did. First one back. I haven't done a podcast in a long time.
That's true.
So it's been really nice to get back into it again.
I feel like there's been a lot organized, but we've kept having to push them for various reasons. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And Will's just been way too busy to record a catch up for a long time. So
it's been a busy October, but it's now November, so things are not busy at all, right? That's how that works.
Hopefully.
Alrighty.
See what happens.
Until next time, that's the quest complete.
Yes. 10 XP.
Level up.
Only 10.
Someone's gonna collate the levels you get at the end of these together at some point, and it's gonna be very funny.
I hope so.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.